Welcome to Lesbian Pirates of Baja. We are Shay and Yona, and we sail on Holoholo, our 38-foot sailboat in the Sea of Cortez, Mexico. We are in the middle of a complete refit of Holoholo. We are rebel sailors, we like to do our own work, think for ourselves, and don't like rules. We live close to nature and enjoy the rewards and trials of living on a sailboat. It was time to work our way south. Our loose plan was to explore the southern coast of Baja for the next month. Little panorama. We left early and motor sailed our way to Domingo at the entrance of Conception Bay. Domingo is a lovely bay, and we spent the night and continued our journey south to Pulpito Bay the next morning. We only spent one night, and the next morning we left for San Juanico. We're going to talk about when the transmission died.
The transmission died when we were taking down the sails to go into Wahico from our sail from Pulpito.
Yes, it was a really nice sail from Pulpito, and it was just a few hours, and we started the engine to head up into the wind to douse the main, and I couldn't keep the boat into the wind, and I was like, this is a little odd. I didn't think that much of it at the time. But we doused the main, and we brought in the jib.
Furled in the jib.
And we headed, it was about a mile away, like straight west, the anchorage. And we were headed toward it, and we were just chatting and talking and, about how the sail was. And like 15 or 20 minutes went by.
I don't know if it was that long. Maybe it seemed like that. But we were going backwards.
And then I realized we weren't making any headway. Like land wasn't getting any closer. And we're like, what the heck is happening? And that's when I started messing more, like with the steering, with the gears.
We went into reverse, so we've still got reverse, but we don't have forward.
We realized we did not have forward propulsion.
Yeah.
And typically you go into anchorage under engine power because it's the safer thing to do, because you're navigating rocks and other boats, and so it's much more challenging to do that with a sail, under sail, and so most people, you start your engine, go into an anchorage, and you drop your hook that way.
So we quickly took out the jib and said, okay, well, the wind's in this direction. We've got good power with just the jib only. We can control that and douse it very quickly. So we radioed to the fleet to alert them that we were coming into the Bay of Pulpito, and we kind of wanted to see
San Juanico.
We wanted to see if how many boats were into the anchorage, because we couldn't see at this point. And San Juanico is hidden by some rock formations, and then there's some you can drop anchor behind those. So we didn't know, and we'd never been there before. So we got on the horn and talked to some people who were anchored already, and they said, hey, that's pretty empty. And we just said, well, we're coming under sail only. We have no forward propulsion, so
keep an eye out.
Beware. So
yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking because, we didn't really want to troubleshoot what was happening at that moment. There was nothing like super dangerous. But we needed to make into the anchorage safely, and we had sailed into an anchorage before and dropped the hook before under sail, but not on our boat.
Other people's boat,
but we'd never done
their risk.
So we were like, we got this. We can do this. We know what needs to happen. We know how we have to set up the boat. How, in general, what's going to happen when we head up into the wind, and we've got like one chance to do this. Like really, you don't have a lot of chances to.
It's not a lot of do-overs. You don't say, oh, I'm going to go around in a circle and try that again.
Yeah, you pick your spot and you make it happen.
The wind never cooperates.
So we wanted to look at some of the obvious options for why we didn't have forward propulsion, and one of them would be to make sure that there was nothing attached to the prop or the prop shaft, that we hadn't caught a net or a plastic bag.
Fishing line is usually the reason why it's not moving.
So we kind of wanted to eliminate the obvious reasons
and the simplest ones.
Right. So it would make life a lot easier.
Right. If we're just cutting out a net, woohoo, we're on our road again, But that wasn't the case. You can do it. Remember, don't stab yourself.
So the transmission is right down there. And you have to pull up the floor to kind of get to the whole thing. We can service it by going into the engine room or laying across the engine, but to actually get to the prop shaft and the tranny, we have to go in and pull up the floor. So since it was nothing easy,
wasn't easy. It never really sometimes is.
We came to the conclusion that it was most likely mechanical issue in the transmission.
And this is a really rebuilt new transmission, so we're thinking, how can it go wrong?
We knew at least it was mechanical.
Yeah.
And in being mechanical, it wasn't something that we were going to fix in San Juanico in the anchorage.
Right. I mean, there's no services, there's no stores, there's nothing.
No road.
It's a very remote little area. So.
And, it is subject to, if there was a wind change, we would be on a lee shore.
Yeah.
And so we knew we had to make a move, whether that was south, that move, or whether that was north, that we did have to make a move to put ourselves in a better location. So the options were to go to Puerto Escondido,
which is south,
and
further south,
get a tow, sail to Puerto Escondido, get a tow into Puerto Escondido.
But it would put us further south and away from all of our peeps who we are able to bounce ideas off of and enlist their help, and that just didn't seem like the obvious.
It could have been an indeterminate amount of time that we were there. If we were going to get parts, if we had to get them, from the States, that we could really be in Puerto Escondido for a long time. And did we want that? Did we want to do that?
Right.
We weren't going to go south. The other option, and we weren't going to go across to Guaymas from San Juanico. We were going to go north. And so that meant we were going to go north without an engine. We were going to sail there, which is a different proposition. It takes more forethought, and you do things a little bit different. You make different choices when you're sailing without an engine. Like, how do you get out of the anchorage when there's a boat and a rock and a shore, and how are you safely going to navigate that, without an engine
under sail? And it seems obvious. Oh, well, we're a sailboat. Just go. Why are you wrapping your head? Why are you freaking out about this? And the thing is, though, you have to have the right point of sail to be able to get around and maneuver all around these objects. And when you have a very busy anchorage, that's tough. So
it's a little nerve-wracking.
Right.
A lot of nerve-wracking. Because we're talking about other people's boats now.
Right. So, you pick up the anchor and you hoist your sails and you are able to then start dodging objects. It just really, messes really much. But we had to wrap our brain around that.
And for me, it was, like really stepping into being confident. Like I really had to be like, can't have doubts here. We cannot go into I can't do this place. This has to be I can do this. We will figure it out. It is going to happen. And really stepping into that self-empowerment big time. We are going to work together well. We are going to, it really had to be from that place. And we did ask for help. And that was the other thing is like, usually we don't ask for a lot of help, but it put us, we felt vulnerable. I felt vulnerable at least. And so, we had to ask for help when we were leaving San Juanico anchorage in getting a side tie, a dinghy to come over and side tie next to us.
We bartered with tequila and beer to be able to, as a thank you, to help us get out of the anchorage.
It just felt like it was going to be less stressful, safer for everyone to get this help. So at 6 a.m., we side tied. And we were able to get us out beyond the boats in the anchorage, where then we could raise ourselves safely and move out into the ocean.
Yeah, and we thank our fellow cruisers for that help. That was a big ask.
So we headed north, hoping to make it to Domingo in one shot.
56 nautical miles, and we had. What did we have? About 10 knots of wind?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. We had full sail up and we were a couple miles offshore just for safety. We were out for at least 12 hours, 13 hours. It was getting dusk. We were at the point of Domingo. Like we're gonna round the point to go into the Bay of Concepcion.
And the wind died.
And
then the depth sounder died.
Stopped working.
And it seemed like, the trifecta has now occurred. So that's the boat telling us, you're not gonna make it, don't go in. So we decided to bob around offshore. Good morning, Yona.
Morning. It looked like crap. Feel like crap. It was a crappy night. A lot of rolling around in the middle of the ocean.
So the problem is that when our sail up from Wahico to Domingo was about an hour and a half short before it got dark, and about 2 nautical miles before the wind died to get around the point into Domingo. And there was nothing restful about bobbing out at the bay, in the Bay of Concepcion.
We weren't even in the bay. We were in the sea.
We were just in the sea still, just at the entrance of Concepcion. We were about 2 nautical miles offshore, so we did pretty good. But we took watches anyways, just to make sure that, I don't know, the breeze didn't come up and take us into the shore. So the rollers were about 3 to 5 foot swells,
at least,
and they just moved you from all over. And we are trying. We are going to that point out there, right there. We need to get past that. We got the jib up, and that's the situation. So Yona, it's been 2.5 hours since our last video, and the first attempt of trying to clear that point over there. And we still feel like crap. We still look like crap. And this is going to be attempt number 2. So we got too close to shore, we had to tack out, and now we're trying to tack in. Maybe we're hoping 1 shot.
So we sailed very slowly around the point and into the bay, and then the wind
picked up.
And we decided we're not going to anchor in Domingo. The wind is here. Let it take us all the way down the channel.
Down to Santa Spec.
So we had a nice sail for a few hours.
We were able to maneuver past the big island, and then there's some low-lying rocks that, like a little rock reef that all the pelicans sit on, which is about 2 feet above the water. So you have to miss that. And then you head straight for this other island, and then you're going to tack. And the wind was coming directly in the direction we needed to tack to go to the anchorage.
And we're still learning how this boat, how do we do this? It was a big learning curve. And after a couple times of falling back toward the island, you know, I was just like, this is not working. I got on the radio and said, is there anyone in the anchorage? We don't have propulsion. Is there anyone in the anchorage that would be willing to help us?
Assist us with a side tie. So we had 3 people respond, which is really sweet.
Yeah,
we really appreciate that.
So we did get someone to side tie us, and then it took a lot of effort to go into the wind and get us to a spot.
It was so windy. It was so windy. Tim's inflatable was like bananing because it was losing air, and then all of a sudden it's waters in his little banana dinghy. And
I remember him bailing. He's like, "Give me a bailer."
Do you have a bailer? Do you have a bailer? I'm going, oh yeah, we got a bailer. He's bailing and holding on and using the throttle. It was, that was a little hair raising. But
so finally we were able to, after, it was probably 24, 30 hours since we'd left Pulpito, no sleep, that we were finally able to put the hook down and be like, okay, we're someplace safe now. After some much needed rest, we headed to the natural hot springs for a well-deserved soak.